Mental health is a very prominent issue that we face today in society. On a couple studies done by the National Alliance on Mental Health, it showed that 75% of all lifetime mental health illnesses start by the age of 24. In another study, it showed that 1 in 4 young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 have a diagnosable mental illness. Those are quite alarming stats. That's why on this episode of Monday Motivation, I decided to cover the third dimension of wellness, which is emotional well-being. And I think it's a very important topic that we need to discuss for sure. So, you guys know the drill. Grab yourselves a good pen and notepad, and let's get started. So what's up everyone, welcome back to another Monday Motivation video. I am your host here, IRVIN Ramirez with Feel Good Digital Media. As I said, this week we're covering emotional well-being, which is a super important topic, especially nowadays. Mental health issues and mental illness in general is something that's being talked about more nowadays, but it could still be talked about even more, especially in our own daily lives. So today, when I'm covering emotional well-being, I will tell you what it is, some questions to keep in mind, and why it's important. So let's get started. So like I said, I wanted to get started first with what is emotional well-being. And the definition that I'll give you is the ability to successfully express and manage an entire range of feelings, including anger, happiness, sadness, and everything that comes in between. Being able to have a positive emotional well-being encompasses having good self-esteem, positive body image, knowing how to regulate your own feelings, and then being able to know where and who to seek out for help. And that's not limited to seeking counseling services. That can mean the people that you have in your life or the different ways that you have already developed to deal with your emotional well-being. That's a quick little definition on what emotional well-being is that you can kind of sum up, but just your ability to deal with your own emotions, whether they be good ones or bad ones, just being able to have outlets, whether that's people or activities that can help you manage those feelings in a positive way. So now I want to hit on 5 quick questions that you can ask yourself to check how you're doing emotionally and see where your emotional well-being is at. Question number 1 is, do I strive to maintain a balance of my obligations with work, school, family, friends, community, and myself? Right? So a big portion of where our emotional well-being comes from is being able to maintain a balance between everything that we got going on in life. Often when you feel like you're being pulled in too many different ways, you start to realize that you're just not doing well yourself. So being able to find a balance between everything that you have going on, whether it's your school, whether it's work, whether it's family, any types of communities or friendships, relationships, it is important to make sure that you find a balance between all those things in order to better take care of yourself. So question number 1 was, do I strive to maintain a balance of my obligations with work, school, family, friends, community, and most importantly, yourself? On to question number 2, which is, do I have effective, productive, and healthy ways to reduce stress in my life? Right? So this is a very important question to ask yourself, because if you don't have outlets to relieve some of your stress or some of your worries and anxiety, then that's how a lot of mental illnesses, arise or develop or even accumulate, because we just don't have ways to let it all out, right? So make sure to find good, healthy ways for you to deal with those emotions and be able to relieve some stress, things like working out, going on a walk, knitting, drawing, coloring, swimming, whatever it is, whether it's a physical activity or a creative activity, or even if it's just plain out laying down and not thinking about nothing or just listening to some music, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you find something that works for you and that you can go to in times of stress. So question number 2 was, do I have effective, productive, and healthy ways to reduce stress in my life? Question number 3, do I have the ability to make decisions with minimal stress or worry? right? This is a very important thing to keep in mind, because if every time you're making a decision it really stresses you out, or you really worry, or you start to really overthink things, then that might mean that your emotional well-being is not doing too hot. So kind of reflect on that. If every decision you're making is causing you a lot of stress or a lot of worry, try to figure out why. Kind of check into those other dimensions of wellness and see where you're kind of lacking or where you could work on in order to try to relieve some of that stress, and try to figure out why you're always worrying about every decision, right? So question number 3 was, do I have the ability to make decisions with minimal stress or worry? All right. Question number 4, which is super important, do I set healthy and realistic priorities for myself? Right? I think a lot of times we add a lot of extra stress to ourselves and a lot of extra worry because we set very high expectations and priorities that we can't always fulfill, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have high expectations of yourself, because I think you should always strive to get better, but it's also important to make them realistic and achievable, right? You want to create smart goals and that kind of guide you, and that way you can develop those realistic priorities of yourself, right? Don't Everything in your life is not a priority, right? That is something that we kind of have to figure out ourselves. So you have to keep a list or keep an order, a hierarchy of what's the most important, and go based on that. So it is important to have those healthy and realistic priorities for yourself. So question number 4 was, do I have healthy and realistic priorities for myself? All right, quickly before I give you the last question, I've already talked about the other 2 dimensions of wellness, so make sure you check out that playlist at the end of the video. If you're liking what you're hearing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leave us a comment, see if you took anything away from the video, or maybe share it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you want to, or share it with those who you think might need to have these conversations or might need to hear these questions. I really appreciate you guys sticking out this long, and appreciate your support. So let's get it going on to the last question. So question number 5 is, do I likewise have healthy and realistic expectations for others in my life? This is another important one, because if you have healthy and realistic expectations for yourself, you should also have the same for the people around you. It's important to be able to find that balance and find a good place, for those expectations for the people around you. That way, it kind of all relates back to that first question of finding, have enough balance between everything that you're responsible for, and making sure you share these with those people around you and your friends. Well, whether it's your friends, your family, your coworkers, your bosses, make sure you let them know your expectations of them. That way they can know those and also share them, and they can also share theirs with you. So question number 5 was, do I likewise have healthy and realistic expectations for others in my life? Sweet. So that was a quick definition of what emotional well-being is and some questions to keep in mind. Lastly, I want to tell you why it's important. Right? I told you in the beginning a couple stats that were pretty alarming as far as mental illness development and people with mental illness in general. Mental illness is a very, very important topic, right? And it isn't until recently that it's been able to be more openly talked about or more openly discussed. Before, mental illness was just seen as people being dramatic or, people wanting attention. But the more we study it, the more we realize, no, these are real illnesses that need to be treated and need to be given the attention that they need. So, that's why I think it's important to focus on emotional well-being, because if you're stable emotionally, you could really do well in the rest of the areas of your life, and you can really work on. But if you're emotionally unstable or, just not functioning all the way, as far as you're not being able to fully dedicate yourself to what you're doing because you're worrying about too many other things, then that's really going to set you back. And I'm not saying you have to have perfect days every day, but if you have a continuous string of really bad days, then emotional well-being might be something you want to take a deeper look at. I myself struggled with a lot of mental issues, especially last year, due to a lot of adversity that I faced. But a year later, I feel a lot better, especially after focusing more on my emotional well-being. So I can assure you that once you start diving deeper into your own emotional well-being by starting with those simple questions that I gave you and then kind of diving in deeper, then I believe that you'll be able to kind of put your own emotional well-being in a better state. So that's all I have for you this week. We covered emotional well-being with what it is, some questions to keep in mind, and then why I think it's important. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. As I said earlier, there will be a playlist at the end of the video that will give you guys a rundown of the other dimensions of wellness that I've covered. I look forward to hearing what you guys thought of the episode and if you took anything away from it. Like I said, leave a like and a subscribe button if you enjoy the content. Follow us at Feel Good Digital Media on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. So make sure to hit those up too to keep up with what all Feel Good Digital Media is all about. And that's it. So, as I always say, just go out there and feel good. Peace.